So if we haven't met yet, my name is Madeline, and I am the National River Cleanup Manager at American Rivers. This call will be recorded and shared with everyone afterwards. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know who you are, what cleanup you lead, and we'll go from there. Some updates and reminders. Thank you to everyone who submitted their photos to our annual photo contest. Voting will be opening tomorrow and it'll go until the 14th. In addition, it's that time of year again to register your cleanup. Do so as early as you can. As soon as you have that date down, please register with us. You can visit our website, and by registering, you can also request trash bags. We need at least 4 weeks notice, and we can provide up to 4,000 bags per event. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And then moving forward for our organizer discussions, when time does allow, we are going to start sharing questions that were asked from participants who submitted them in the RSVP form and provide answers to them. I think this will really allow us to have even better discussions and ensure everyone's questions are being answered. So National River Cleanup. So before we get started on today's topic, I want to share what National River Cleanup is all about. For anyone who's new, National River Cleanup is a program at American Rivers. We've been a program for more than 25 years and supporting a national network of river cleanup organizers to have an impact at local, regional, and national levels. And all of our collective efforts together are helping to keep rivers and riverside lands healthy for recreation, people and wildlife, and improve our world. So we do all of these things in several ways. One of them is we partner with companies and local groups to execute our own river cleanups, as well as support local organizer-led events of all types and sizes to successfully execute a cleanup. And with that, we support a network of more than 325 local organizers in 43 states. And we offer technical assistance, event resources and supplies, such as trash bags, tools. We have a handbook that we recently translated into Spanish, which is very exciting. And also a number of these resources have been translated into Spanish, and we intend to kind of finish up all of that before sometime this year. We also help to connect volunteers to cleanup events in their community. So the slide that I'm showing right now is a list of all of the stuff that we offer to the organizer network, you guys. We don't have time to go through them today, but please check them out. They are very useful. Last year, or maybe it was the year before that, we came out with our fundraising resource guide. So that's one of our newest resources. It has a compilation of different businesses, some national, some regional, and some local, that offer different kinds of support that you can apply to see if they'll give you some funding or equipment or food and whatever you need. And so that's a great resource in addition to all these other ones. So a snapshot of 2021. So here are 2021 cleanup results, which represent the results, the reported results from you guys. In total, we removed 860,000 pounds of litter and cleaned over 2,000 miles of river. And over 27,000 volunteers were engaged at over 300 cleanup events. For virtual engagement, this reflects our results from Literati. Some of them, I would say more than half of the challenges were American Rivers led challenges. And I would say about 40% were organizer led challenges. And overall, we collected 170,000 pieces of litter engaged over 1,000 volunteers, and there was a total of 66 literati cleanup challenges. If you are interested in using literati, please let me know. I'm happy to provide more information, and I can actually connect you with any of the other organizers who have used literati and have both good and bad feedback, depending on their situation. And so you could definitely get a full picture into more about the app and if it's the right tool for you and your group. So with this impact, and I do have a graph, and I showed this last year, and I've included the 2021 results here. And so with this, although the pandemic continued to have an impact on cleanup activities, we still saw that many organizers and volunteers were eager to resume their efforts especially after the cancellation of their 2020 events. And although the number of cleanup events matches the pre-COVID-19 numbers, we still saw lower volunteer and litter collected numbers compared to previous years. So even though the number of cleanup events returned to similar levels, this was likely due to the lifting of local and state restrictions. So if you were able to have events, you did, but they had to be like smaller in size, smaller groups, or like different locations that allowed for more social distancing. And so that could have impacted why we're still seeing low volunteer numbers and trash collected. And that's just one inference into the reasoning behind this. So the dark blue line, that represents 2019's results for the number of cleanup events that happened in 2019. The light blue is 2020 numbers. As you guys know, most of you canceled your events. And then the orange is actually 2021. So you can see that we're getting back to what we were seeing previously, which is really awesome. And then 2022, we're hoping to see, we think we'll probably see similar results, maybe even more. So we'll see. And then number of volunteers participating in cleanups, just to show you guys what this looks like. We did see, as you can see from the graph, things are still much better than 2020, but we're still making a big difference. In orange is 2021's numbers, so we're still getting a lot of people engaged, nearly 10,000 in the month of May, which is awesome. So don't feel bad about not getting, if you're not seeing the same numbers as you were in prior years, because a lot of others are also seeing the same things. And then later on, I would love to open this up to a discussion over what everyone else here was experiencing over the last year. Does your experience match what we're seeing in the data here? And why not? I also do want to mention that there was an 11% increase in volunteers compared to 2020. So we are seeing more people getting out there, which is exciting. Now I would like to share some wonderful highlights from organizers of their experience. And one person mentioned that they were actually surprised at the number of people in attendance despite a pandemic. Another person was excited because they were able to clean up more trash than previous years, and their volunteers enjoyed being able to go out to the same location several weekends in a row to see how quickly trash accumulated. That could be a great idea for anyone looking to kind of have a routine group getting out, and I think it's a really great education opportunity. So if you haven't considered that, that could be another way to really engage your volunteers, having more consistent events happening weekend after weekend at the same place. And then the third was one group had a team of volunteer scuba divers that cleaned up a stretch of the Flathead River, which I believe is in Montana, which is very cool. I know some other folks have also done the same in Michigan and Georgia, and it's just a great, I think you're finding great things too, and it's definitely needed, capturing some of that trash that we can't always reach. And then lastly, I think every time I think I've seen it all, and then another organizer surprises me with their unique or strange cleanup find. We have a very long list and so many pictures, but here are 3 recent finds just in the past several months. Someone found a jar of pickles, 150 face masks, and a stadium chair. That's kind of fun. So that's my short presentation. So now I want to open it up to you guys. This is a time to feel free to start talking, raise your hand if you want to speak. You can use the chat box to share questions or your plans. And I'll kick things off first with this question. Does anyone want to share how their events looked different this year compared to last year?
Hey, I don't know, it's Mark. Just to get us kicked off, I'm trying to enlist more help reaching out to some local churches and Boy Scout troops. I'm an old Eagle Scout myself, and so I've done this before and never seemed to quite get as many people out as I'd like. So trying to engage some churches that are right around my target stream here, as well as some of the local Boy Scout troops.
Great, thank you for sharing, Mark. I definitely think it's important to think outside the box when you're recruiting volunteers. So if you haven't, even business groups, there's so many people, recreation groups, so many groups of people, even hikers that you might not necessarily consider including in your events before. Definitely consider it, because they're more likely than not to be interested in your cleanup event.
So we're starting to get a little more interest from schools in litter cleanup. We haven't really expanded that program, but we are looking to do so. And so it's interesting that they're contacting us and saying, hey, you know, we would like to do a cleanup, and then we bring up literati. And so I'm hoping that that'll morph into that thing where they actually look at what they're picking up and then suggest changes, like, oh, maybe we shouldn't sell this or in the cafeteria because everybody throws it on the ground. That's one thing. And then the second thing that I'd like to focus more on is making sure, or getting more people from the communities where we're cleaning up, and not so much bringing people in from outside. So we have a large group of volunteers that volunteer to do things in cleanups, but that doesn't really help with the root problem if they're not from the neighborhood where we're doing the cleanup. It only gets rid of the trash that's there that day. It doesn't impact or teach people that live there about litter. So I'm trying to make, you know, a little more focus on really trying to draw in those people from that community. And we did get a grant, and we have lots of little goodies to give away. And we're hoping that those incentives will help us to get people from the neighborhoods where we're cleaning.
That's great, Jackie. I did my last cleanup with a local group here, Keep Rockland Beautiful, and it was actually focused more on the education, particularly young kids, than it was the actual trash pickup. And it was really, it was awesome. And, you know, you don't even think of it, but the little kids on my street, they don't even understand like what biodegradable is and the difference between something biodegradable and not. And so Keep Rockland Beautiful ran this great program, and they had litter related games where the kids had to were tested to like properly recycle stuff, you know, which kind of category it went in and what could be recycled or not recycled. And then we went around and labeled all the storm intakes that go around my little section of stream here. It was definitely heavy on the education thing. And I had never really thought before, but these little kids that we see throwing candy wrappers and Dorito bags down, they really didn't understand, plastics lasting forever and how ducks and cats and things can get tangled up with them. And they just didn't understand the consequence. So that's definitely great.
I can go next. I work with Willamette Riverkeeper and I'm based in Portland. I know my coworkers, Michelle, is on this call too, but a lot of our cleanups have shifted from a family-friendly type event to more dangerous materials that we're cleaning up from dump sites and abandoned houseless camps and things like that. So it's shifting the focus of who we're reaching out to and engaging in that way. And Jackie, I think similar to what you were saying, really engaging some of those communities. Are there nonprofits and places that are working with the houseless that are living in that area already? And can you engage some of those groups? And just being careful in the language that we're using, if it is family friendly or if it's not, and being mindful of who we're working with.
Yeah, I learned the family-friendly lesson too, because Keep Rockland Beautiful actually didn't want to come help on my little section of stream that I do because they were mostly younger kids and they were worried the embankments were too steep and the area was a little too dangerous. So that was another lesson I learned as well, that if I really want people picking up trash in my zone here, they've got to have boots and obviously I don't want to be putting kids at risk. So another learning point for me.
Does anyone else want to share about things they're hoping to do this year or compared to last year, or maybe trends that they might be seeing with their volunteers or trash that they're finding?
I'll jump in. This is Michelle from Willamette Riverkeeper. I'm based out of Eugene and work the Central Valley on up to the headwaters of the Willamette River. We still do have some family related events, and each year we have 2 focused campaigns, one in the spring and one in the fall, where we organize up to 35 events during the month of May and during the month of October. At that time, because it's nearly impossible for 5 staff members to try to organize that many events all on our own, we work with nonprofit organizations, as well as municipalities across the region, park staff, recreation staff, as well as neighborhood organizations. I'm sure that all of you live in areas where you can engage specific neighborhood organizations that might be able to adopt part of a river path or a river neighborhood in an effort to clean it up on a regular basis. And I found that I can really lean into those partners every time that we do one of our big organized campaigns, our monthly campaigns, to help lead events and to take ownership of certain segments of the river. So that might be a way to help reach, well, obviously strengthen capacity, but also to reach new members and also bring in residents of the areas where you're working on these cleanups. And lastly, just looking at those graphs in the presentation, I'm not sure how many of you are actually seeing less litter. We actually cleaned up a ton of litter and we're seeing more and more and more garbage to the point where we don't really have the capacity to get it all. And so I don't know if other people are experiencing that, but we've really seen an uprising in homeless camps along the river and waterways, in particular with COVID happening. So
I didn't see homeless camps, but during the peak of COVID, everybody was coming out of New York City to the state parks up here in the suburbs and the parking lots. It was just atrocious what you would see there. The Rockland Lake, you would go to the parking lot afterwards and you would think a concert just let out or something. It would be just garbage everywhere. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Unbelievable. But it seems to have gotten a little better now that people can circulate and whatnot, but it was depressing for a while.
On the opposite end, Well, I mean, I'm in Uray County, Colorado, so down south near Telluride, but not in Telluride. And we are getting tons and tons more tourists. And yes, parking lots in different places are, and roadways are trashy. But the places that our partners have wanted to clean by the rivers are so little trash that our volunteers actually get kind of bored. And I try and tell them to do more micro pickup and really pay attention to the smaller plastics. And one of them, the real purpose is to get fishing line. But unfortunately, the fishing line is in trees that you have to like get ladders into. And so my challenge is to either convince my partners that we need to be cleaning somewhere else, or figure out other activities that my people can do besides just picking up trash.
Hey, related to that, and a comment I see that Penny Lanham made there about fishermen. So I am a fisherman and very active on a site called Stripers Online, striped bass fishing. And you'd be happy to know there's routinely posts there from both saltwater and freshwater fishermen about litter pickups and people that are really upset when somebody trashes their favorite spot. So fishermen are aware. They're some of the worst offenders out there. You'll come and you'll see their empty foam cups from worms and their lunch there and some other stuff. But there are a lot of us out there that do care and, you know, bring home more than they brought in and whatnot. So.
Yeah, that's great. And you can also, that could be another group that you engage with, invite to volunteer, and you can get more support, and they'll probably end up making a donation because they're already very passionate about the river. And it seems, I feel like I don't engage fishermen as much as I could. And so I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way, but that's how I feel. And so that's definitely will be a goal that I'll set for this year to concentrate on.
Well, I got lucky. The first cleanup I did when I moved to this little stream was with Riverkeeper, and somehow that turned into an invitation to their annual Fisherman's Ball in New York City. And it was the year they were honoring Debbie Harry, Blondie. And so I got to go down there and meet her and be part of that whole scene. So that was pretty cool.
We have some very active fly fishing groups on the southern part of our Willamette Valley, and we've been able to engage at least 2 groups in regular river cleanups. And sometimes they'll come out and help out with our annual river festival as well, doing fly fishing education, casting and fly tying, which is really cool. And then they invite people to come out to the river cleanups as part of that to promote the work that they're doing in stewardship. Yeah, that's what I got for you. Sorry.
I think the fly fishermen are particularly conscious. I'm just kind of getting into the fly fishing, and the guys were showing me different floats, and they're all moving to ones now that are biodegradable, away from ones that were plastic and whatnot, because they know every now and then you're going to break off, and that's going to mean a little plastic bubble or something floating down the stream, and they're often, you know, bright yellow or orange or whatever. So they're, I don't know, somehow companies are cooking up ones that are biodegradable that will just disappear over time. So that was good to hear too.
I know what I was going to say. We also work with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife on a program called Keep Oregon Rivers Clean. So the acronym is CORC. And they have these fishing line recycling stations that we've partnered up to install with Parks and Recreation around different municipalities in the Willamette Valley. And then we recruit the volunteers who then clean those out on a regular basis and then report back their findings to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And that's been a really great program too, just to elevate awareness in the fishing groups about keeping trash picked up, as well as fishing line and some of those floats and lead weights and things like that that you might find out there.
Michelle, I have a question because I know several several organizers had questions about attracting volunteers outside your network. When you mentioned working with some of the fly fishermen groups, how did that relationship spawn? How did you approach them? Or if it is a new group that you're looking to get involved with, how would you go about that?
Honestly, I just Googled the groups that are around our region and found out who was working in this area, and introduced our organization to a couple different board meetings. And they were absolutely thrilled to hear about our river stewardship programs and river cleanups. And then the relationship has just organically grown from there to have them participate in educational opportunities when and where they can. And then once we connected with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on the Cork program, that was just a huge boon to a lot of the fly fishers, because it was just a direct connection to their favorite recreational activity on the river.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's been my experience too recently, that going at it rather than trying to approach as many groups as possible, really prioritizing a few groups that you think would maybe be a fit for you, and then reaching out and making a very personalized introduction to them and getting to know them on a personal level really will make a relationship happen faster, and you'll have more success rather than trying to like capture everyone.
I absolutely agree. I've been doing this for like a decade, and I feel like a lot of the groups that I work with, I now have a lot of really good friends in those groups who I boat with or fish with outside of my work. And a lot of the work that we do really is all about building relationships. When we have good relationships with those organizations that we're focused on, they reach out and they continue to communicate, our intersecting goals as organizations with their constituencies. And we've also gained a lot of new donors just from the fishing organizations, people who are active in those groups. There's also a lot of folks like Trout Unlimited, who are active in protecting river habitats for wild fish. And so I would say that it's not just fisher people who recreate and fish, but also those who actively support wild habitat for wild fish too, to take a look at those.
Thanks for sharing, Michelle.
I just give us a little bit of introduction to what we're doing here in Peoria, Arizona. So we have a dry stream. It's becomes a very large river seasonally. We clean that every month from October to March. And we have a lot of issues with transient people who either live or congregate in that dry riverbed. And then when we get the rain or the storm, just vast amounts of litter gets dragged down the river. We also have businesses that sell food in very unsustainable packaging. The folks come out of the business, they'll sit by the New River and they'll walk away and leave their trash. We've used literati a little bit unconventionally. We use it before a cleanup event, go in, take about 400 photos, go in, tag them. It's very easy to say what kind of trash we're seeing, just to build a snapshot of that section of the river. We don't pick up the trash at that point because the goal is to take as many photos as possible. And then the next day we'll come back with volunteers and we'll pick up the trash. So we're building a snapshot of the river where the trash hotspots are, so that we can better address requests to businesses. You know, if the polystyrene cups really peak at one section of the New River, why is that? We've just been, today we got an agreement from Parks and Rec here, I work for Parks and Rec, to remove the benches. Benches with trash cans, benches without trash cans doesn't seem to make a difference. A lot of people just leave their trash on the bench and walk away. So benches are definitely areas for us that provoke a lot of trashy behavior. We're working on a Friends of the New River for businesses. So this is a kind of soft pledge that businesses agree to do 3 actions from a list of 6. And if they do, they get a window cling that says, I'm a friend of the New River. So it's very gentle, moving people towards, you know, it's a privilege to do business on the New River. And eventually that will morph into a more audited type of green business certification, where they will actually look at the trash in the New River And hopefully that'll probably take a lot more work to get that one to pass, but we're starting small with, like I said, a kind of soft, hey, come and join us in this Friends of the New River.
Well, Della, I appreciate the part about the bench. I actually thought about putting a bench on my stream, but didn't do it because of that specific thing. I will say that since I've started cleaning up, I'm getting more visitors. And they don't seem to be leaving trash. I've got one woman in particular that likes to come and sit on a rock, a big rock by the edge of the stream, and get high, which I don't mind as long as she doesn't leave trash. And with regards to businesses, we had a lot of cabbies that would stop and wait for their next ride along this kind of quiet stretch of street here. And so I got the names and numbers of all the cab companies, and I started calling them and opened up that discussion and said, hey, look, I don't mind your guys pausing here while they wait for their next ride, but too often I'm finding coffee cups and lunch bags and stuff outside the car. And if that's going to happen, we're not going to allow it because technically there's no parking allowed there. And I've had conversations with some of the drivers and taken pictures of licenses. They're still parking there, but I'm happy to say we really have turned the corner. They realize they're not going to be pausing there if they litter. So they're pausing, but we're not seeing the litter like we used to.
Yeah, at some point you have to go after individual people who are creating trash. The general information to the public is very necessary, but at some point, if you're looking at a stretch of river and there's trash here and there isn't here, then there's a reason why it's happening right there, and you have to go after those people. So I think that's
I've had to have some tough conversations. I had a neighbor literally would come out of church on Sunday in his Sunday suit, finish a 6-pack of beer, and throw every can onto the stream. And one day he did it after I had just cleaned up. And so I ran out, jumped in my car, zipped to his house. And he was really embarrassed, but he ended up apologizing and actually then brought me fresh homemade eggs from a chicken he takes care of and whatnot. So we're friends now. He actually challenged me. He goes, well, you don't own that river, or you don't own that. I said, actually, I do. I said, so do you. We all do. It's all something we own. And I had to have a conversation with him, and then another neighbor who would walk his dog and dutifully pick the crap up with a little black plastic bag and then fling it down into my stream. And I had to tell him, not going to happen anymore. And we're friends now, and he still walks his dog here, but no more little black trash bags on my stream bank here. It's been a battle.
Thank you guys for sharing. I do want to hit some of these other questions that some of the organizers have asked. Does anyone have any advice to share with what has worked for them with getting more volunteers involved and best practices for thanking volunteers?
I haven't done it, but Riverkeeper and Keep Rockland Beautiful, we happen to have an industrial craft brewery. There's an old pre-Civil War factory right on my section of stream, and there's a craft brewery in there called Industrial Arts Brewery, and they have been kicking in free tickets or a ticket for a free beer after the cleanup, and that's proved popular with the cleanup people there.
That's a fun idea. I like that.
I can say, again, this Foxwolf watershed cleanup, think of like the thumb part of Wisconsin area. So we, for the past few years, have not hosted our annual volunteer picnic, but this year we are bringing it back. And I'm really excited about that. So we thank our volunteers with free lunch, raffles, bounce houses, animal exhibitors, and more. We also have like a trash art expert person coming this year to make art out of some of the trash picked up by our volunteers. And I'm also going to be purchasing a bird statue that all of our volunteers can bring a piece of trash that they can clean first, but to affix to this statue. And then it's going to be like our little ambassador that can go in different like municipal town halls, different schools to raise awareness about all this trash that's on this bird was found locally. And, this is how you can get involved. This is how you can make a difference where you are. So that's something, the bird statue thing is something new we're doing this year. One thing I wanted to bring up that we have a lot of different people like different groups and types of people that participate in our cleanup. But we also have a lot of sponsors of our cleanup, and encouraging those companies to get their employee teams involved has been really successful for us. And we kind of we make it a very chill competition, like which business can get the most employees. There's not like a prize for that, but yeah, that's been successful. A lot of people like to participate with other coworkers and that sort of thing. But of course, we have like students and families and Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts participate as well. And another avenue is just local, like community colleges and universities. Most of them have like eco clubs and different groups. And we've also gotten a lot of volunteers that way as well.
I was going to say the same thing. The college in town will offer, I know, extra credit for some of their environmental related classes for students that'll come out. And then a lot of businesses that now offer like activism hours or volunteer hours of some sort, and tapping into those folks.
We do a little thank you for two of our commercial businesses you made me think of. We've got a hardware store on my stream that has donated plastic bags and some other supplies like that. And we meet at an independent pharmacy that's right across the stream from me. He's got a nice big parking lot with a nice address, centrally located. And so as a thank you to each of them, in addition to doing the stream, we also always blitz their properties, which they appreciate because they get a lot of trash around them. So it's a little payback and thank you for them that they also get personally cleaned up in the process.
We've also done a Clean Water for Great Brews punch card where we have 12 to 14 different coffee houses and breweries participate with their logo on this card. And once that logo is punched, a person gets a free drink from that coffee house or brewery. And so at the conclusion of one of the big campaigns that we have, we'll hand that card out to each participating volunteer over the age of 21.
Cool.
I'll jump in here too as well. My name's Annette. I'm with Friends of Chicago River. So as far as outreach, it is, I think, really important to come up with kind of a communications packet to have people help you, you know, so that you aren't the only one trying to tag them all on social media or the only one posting. Like, the more you can send that to aldermen and elected officials and the businesses and the school groups and the churches, those are the trusted messengers that are going to get those people out to your events. But so providing them consistent messaging is really important. And we clean up throughout the year, but our big event is Chicago River Day. And so we're going to have between 60 and 70 active sites that day in May. And so one thing that has been really helpful as far as, you know, celebrating the volunteers is we do have a participating brewery, actually a couple. We started because we service the Chicago River, but also the Calumet River. So we started having what we called our after party at Metropolitan Brewing Company, which is right on the river. And anyone that, you know, we give all the volunteers a free River Day t-shirt, and anyone that comes in their t-shirt gets a free half-liter of beer. And not only is it a reward, but we found it's just really so important for the camaraderie aspect of it, and sort of that sharing that volunteer high after the event when like everyone's so excited about their day, and, you know, all these different sites, it's really kind of hard to get a grasp of all the people that were involved. So having this central location, everyone gets to talk about what they found and what was weird and what was weird and that kind of thing. So, and then it also helps me, as if people have extra supplies or extra t-shirts, I'm in one place and they can bring all of those supplies back to me. So I highly encourage you to try to find, you know, somewhere, and, you know, if it's not a business, even, you know, a centrally located park, you know, to have some kind of celebration, I think is really important.
Yes.
And since it was kind of successful on the north side, we ended up having to have a second one on the south side too. So that was kind of fun.
Cool.
Great ideas. Thank you guys for sharing. I don't know if anyone else is thinking about Earth Day yet, Earth Month. I think I'm just trying to get through January. But someone was inquiring, does anyone have any special plans for Earth Day or Earth Week or Earth Month for this year, or what, or they want to share what they've done in the past?
We have something a little bit different for Earth Day this year. That was one of those schools that contacted us, and they're excited about doing like a after school family litter pickup. And we're going to use Literati. It's not going to be really litter pickup intensive, because they're also going to be, it's a school thing, and the kids are going to be designing signs to put out in the neighborhood to teach people not to litter. But I just think it's the first time we've ever done something like that for Earth Day.
That's a really cute idea. Let us know how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Jackie. You can go
okay.
ahead, Annette.
Okay, real quick, I was just saying, we get a lot of requests from people that want us to lead river, cleanup events. And we also have a toolkit that helps people understand like how to plan cleanup. So we are trying to sort of, teach the man to fish idea. And so we're gonna host litter cleanup trainings to try to amplify the number of people that feel empowered. So especially with your teachers and things like that, once people get a handle on like what it takes and the basics of a cleanup, then they can do it anytime. So that's sort of our strategy this year for Earth Day, is just to try to teach people how to be an organizer too. Go ahead, Wendy.
Thanks, Annette. I love that idea. We have a couple of things going on Earth Day. So first and foremost, on a local scale. So I work for Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper. So on a local scale, we have our largest single day cleanup event is always around Earth Day. But this year, what's different about our cleanup is that on Earth Day itself, which is a Friday, we're going to have our corporate or sponsor group cleanups. So we're really trying to focus on getting kind of the industry involved in cleanups and potentially sources of plastic production involved in cleanups on that Earth Day itself. We get a lot of requests from sponsors to have those corporate volunteer events. So this is a really good way to kind of reach a different audience for us. But then I also organize the Great Lakes cleanup. So if anybody's interested in being part of the Great Lakes cleanup, it's a collaborative of 15 different partners who are doing a cleanup between Earth Day and May 6th. So if you're in that basin, I did put a link to our website in the chat, but I can repost it as well.
Thanks, Wendy. So does anyone have any other questions? Want to share what they're doing? I know there's a few people that just asked questions in the chat, but feel free to chime in.
No, I just posted in chat the link to Stripers Online, the regional forums. So there's special forums for Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey. It's mostly the Northeast seaboard, but there is West Coast as well, because there's some striped bass up there in the San Francisco area and whatnot. So if you're in any of those areas, Delmarva, Chesapeake, Florida, Hatteras, there's specific forums there you could possibly post and find somebody.
Great, thank you. Another question that we have is, since, COVID's been around for quite some time, and I know that many people have adapted with their cleanup events and how they're structuring them. Does anyone want to share how they're organizing their events to keep their volunteers safe during the time of COVID?
Madeline, I'll just say that last year we had, for some of our larger sites, we would do staggered start times of a 9 o'clock and a 10 o'clock start time to keep our opening circle small. So people could still social distance, but this was really before vaccines and boosters were a thing. So we aren't planning on doing staggered start times again this year. Is that sounds simple for me. It was making some people confused. So, we tried it, we employed it last year, but I don't think we'll be doing that again. So I don't really have any other modifications to the event that I'm making this year because of COVID.
Great, thank you for sharing, Annette.
I think we're pretty much on the same page as that, where last year we were limited in sizes and doing different things, but this year, so far, we haven't made any plans to do anything special. We sort of know that we hope that people have figured out what works to help keep them safe and sort of putting it back in their hands now to, it's an outside event. We probably be a little bit leery about bringing people inside to do something, but we never really did that before. So we don't have any special plans this year.
One thing that I did this year, and I did this a few years ago too, is just send out a quick survey to past participants and just got like feedback on not just anything related to COVID, but do you have ideas for new sites? Are there any tools that would make the event safer, easier, more interesting? I forget what all the other questions were, but it's already helped me with planning for this year. Just ask your volunteers, they'll have great advice for you. Well, they might have some great advice and some other not great advice, but something in there will hopefully be usable. So I definitely suggest doing that.
Yeah, Kelly, I also send out a survey, and I've actually found additional site captains that way. So be sure to add to your survey, are you interested in being a site captain? And then you can, since we have so many, that's what we call our leaders that day. So it can find new leadership for you. And with those new people, we are apprenticing a lot of them. Not everyone that's brand new wants to run a site all by themselves. So, and it's just kind of more fun when you have more than one leader, So that's sort of how we're trying to bring in new captains is, getting those new site captains. So you're taking the pressure off them by saying, hey, we're going to put you with someone experienced. They're going to show you the ropes. And then when you're ready, if you want to lead a site by yourself, we'll try to get you a supporting captain as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I know that the mayor's cleanup that is hosted by the West Michigan Environmental Action Council. Sorry, it's a long acronym, WENIAC. They're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they have a very large cleanup event and also have site captains, and they always try to put 2 people per site as leaders, just in case, like, you never know with people. I know it's like a volunteer position, but you don't know these people sometimes on a very personal level, and so it kind of helps you guarantee at least someone's going to be there in case the other person has to drop out unexpectedly. Well, we only have 10 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask the group? I think this is probably the only time one of the few times in your life you'll be on a call with 25 cleanup organizers across the country. So take advantage of it.
I would like to ask, who is using Literati and what, if there's been tweaks, and I saw that one person had said that they were actually taking the pictures first and then cleaning up. If there's any other tweaks or comments or suggestions for using it in a way that makes it more user-friendly and moves things along easier for people to use.
I know with our volunteers, we've been really, a lot of the groups that we've worked with, they're really family oriented and they have young kids. And so we've kind of promoted the opportunity as a family friendly like outing, and that they can go out with their kid and their child, and one of them will be in charge of the phone and taking the pictures, and the other one is in charge of finding the trash and picking up. And it's kind of a bonding experience, and it also is an opportunity to educate your children. And but using the buddy system really seems to work, and it definitely makes it easier.
I would add that we've done 2 challenges and I'm planning a 3rd one right now. We've offered prizes for the top 3 challengers. And I'm working with our local REI who's going to supply the prize items. So I'm excited about that. And it really helps encourage people to participate. I mean, you want them to participate no matter what, but it kind of adds a little bit of a competitive nature to it. So if you're able to do that, I recommend it. Also, I'm assuming a lot of you work with MS4 communities. And because of the way the app works, you can see which communities on the map people are picking up in, and then they can actually take credit for that on their annual reports. So that's a big incentive for them. So then you can use those municipalities to help spread the word about the challenge that you create. So yes, they love it. They're like, this is another thing we can add to our report. So that's one of the reasons I like Literati. I think that's all I have there. Yeah.
That's a great idea. I didn't think about that.
I have a question about Literati. Like, do you guys categorize kind of items by location and have any kind of report as to like where some things, like, is it plastic 50% everywhere, or like, is there, how do you use that info?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the group and what your kind of goals are. With us, we're really using it solely as like an engagement opportunity, at least for now, just to get people involved and having that competitive nature, and getting people excited about litter and using it to like educate them too. And so we're really concentrated on the number of pieces collected and the number of volunteers engaged. But Literati has so much more than that. And so when you have a challenge and after it's completed, actually during the challenge, you can also access this information. They have infographics that really break down the trash that the volunteers are finding and the different types. And so not just on, it breaks it down by brand, material, object, and then there's also like a category. And then you can also download a report of, and it exports as a CSV file, and each piece of litter, it has a individual like number tagged to it, and it'll have the GIS coordinates attached to it. It'll even have the link to the picture that you can access. And it also lists the taggings of the trash. So what type of brand, plastic, anything that the volunteer chose to tag it in. At this moment, they do have like AI software that is basically, as it's learning and getting better, it can identify the objects in the pictures. But in the report that you download, it's solely the volunteers who have tagged that information. It doesn't also include the AI, since I guess it's not finalized yet. It's still learning. And so I think eventually we might be able to get like 2 different reports of what AI is saying and then what the volunteer is saying. And then you'll be able to have every piece of trash tagged, not just a certain percentage, because it does take some time too. And some volunteers don't always want to tag every single piece of trash. But I'm happy to share if you have questions and need like a visual. I'm happy to Zoom with you. I can send you the stuff that I download off of the website or off of our dashboard, and I can share kind of more about what that looks like.
It would be awesome. Thanks.
Any last questions? Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We will have another call in February, and we also have a call in March scheduled. And so I will share those dates out with you guys so you can just hold it on your calendar so you can definitely participate. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.